on the way to the promised land. On the way to the promised land. Between a divine promise, a divine prophecy, and its manifestation, it takes a considerable while. It takes an appreciable while. And by appreciable while, I mean not necessarily a long time, but I mean the things that happen in between those two moments are things worth appreciating, things worth noting down. What I'm trying to say is that between thus saith the Lord to you and it came to pass, it takes an appreciable, considerable while. Between that time, the promise and its manifestation, things could go wrong if we're not mindful. Misdirection could happen. I'm saying that you receive a definite word of prophecy directly or through a priest, a minister, a pastor, does not mean you will enter the manifestation of that promise or prophecy. As for God, His word is certain, the prophecy is certain, but the variable factor is we humans, you and I. We as humans, we are unstable in our ways, except by the help of God. That is why I said that you receive the promise does not mean you will enter into the experience of it. Not that God is not able. God is well able, more than able. But the variable factor, the factor that is unstable is you and I, humans. Now, here's what happens between the promise and the manifestation of the promise. Three things happen. Other things happen as well, but I want to major down on three things to be mindful of. One, temptations. Two, distractions. Three, obstructions. What are temptations? These are things that attempt to persuade us to take a different turn from what God has invited us to. There are things that invite us to three realities. One, they try to persuade us, they invite us to turn back to our past life, past behavior, past relationships, temptations. Or they try to persuade us to take a different turn to a present reality, a tempting present reality. And thirdly, they try to persuade us to take a different turn, to accept a different turn to a tempting future reality. And all three are not of God. But the past, the present reality, and the future reality that the temptation is inviting you to, they are not of God. Now, the Israelites are our case study for this message. They received the word of prophecy and promise of being taken, of progressively entering the promised land. It was a sure word from God. But they had to fulfill their own end of the bargain. But unfortunately, temptation set in. The first temptation set in. Numbers 25 verse 1. Bible tells us that, and the people began to commit harlotry, whoredom, with the daughters of Moab. Now, in this case, the temptation was sex. And temptations align with your pleasures. They align with your desires. Same way a number of people today that have received words of prophecy, promises from the sure word of God, from the Bible, they've been tempted, successfully so, and they've taken a different turn, taking on a new relationship that is not of God. The second, quickly, is distractions, closely related to temptations. Distractions. These are events, people, situations, factors that attempt to cut off our focus